Good morning. So we're going to talk about starting Unit 5, Question 1. It's a conceptual task. And so what this whole unit's all about is that multiplication, division of fractions. And so we're going to go through the task just to kind of go through the CRA model, just so that we're not jumping right to a procedure. So the idea with fair share or division of fractions is for students to understand that when you have a certain amount, like a whole, and you're trying to fairly share it with a specific number of people or putting items in specific baskets, sometimes it doesn't end up to be a whole number. And so up until now, students really have seen it being a whole number, and now all of a sudden it might not be. So let's go through this first task. So the idea here is that kids should start understanding that if we have 5 cookies and we have 4 people, how can we fairly share, and I'm just going to put that, fair share, equally share, right, the cookies among these 4 people. So I have a person right here, I have a person right here, person right here, and a person right here. So what we want our kids to do is we want them to kind of tackle this problem by using either fraction towers. They can use Post-it notes, which I'm going to show you in 1 second in another video. They could also use fraction circles, whatever the case may be. But they have to represent their 5 cookies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're 4 people. Now I'm going to share the cookies with each of my 4 people. So this person gets 1, this person gets 1, this person gets 1, and then this person gets 1. Okay, so each of my people get 1 cookie. But this is where it kind of gets a little interesting for kids, because they realize that there's 1 cookie left and I can't fairly share them among my 4 people if I give one person the whole cookie. So what can we do? And the conversation should be around, well, we can actually break this up, right? Decompose it into a equal amount so that each of the 4 people can receive the same amount of cookie. And that's where their knowledge of fractions can come into play, is the fact that we can divide this whole into fourths, and I have 4 fourths. So therefore, I can take a fourth of a cookie, a fourth of a cookie, oh my goodness, sorry, a fourth of a cookie, and a fourth of a cookie, and each of my kids or friends can get 1 whole cookie and a fourth of another cookie. It's a fair share. Everyone gets the same amount. You can go into how we can then take, if we know each person got 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/4. How do we know that this totals my 5 cookies? So I have 1 whole plus 1 whole plus 1 whole plus 1 whole, which gives me my 4 wholes, and then 4 fourths gives me another whole, which would give me 5 total. So they can kind of go back and just check their work and make sure it's a reasonable answer. Now, how do we do this representationally? So this is concrete. Highly recommend kids actually doing this so that they understand what it means to fairly share. But how do we do this representationally? Same thing. So they're going to model the problem. They have 5 cookies. So I'm going to divide, or I'm going to show, represent 5 cookies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're going to share them among 4 people. So I know that 1 person can get each cookie. So that's 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. And they can actually put the cookies in the little space here. So these cookies are fairly shared. However, we're still left with that 1 cookie like we were with our fraction tower. So how can we get this cookie divided equally or shared equally among our 4 friends? They can then say they can decompose 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4, and then each student can get a 4th. And they can either draw a 4th or they can just write a 4th. And therefore the same solution pertains, 1 and 1/4. All right, the next problem talks about sharing 1 cookie among 3 people. So this is a different type of division problem, whereas before you had 5 cookies among 4 people, now you have 1 cookie among 3 people. How are you going to do that? So once again, you start with the concrete. We have 1 cookie and we have 3 people. How are we going to divide that or fairly share this cookie with 3 people? That's where they take their fraction pieces, find the equivalents, and now they can clearly see that each student or person can get a 1/3 of a cookie. So 1/3 for that person, 1/3 for that person, 1/3 for that person. Each person gets 1/3. They can go back and check their work. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, put them together, equals my 1 whole cookie. Same thing with representing this. You can do or show 1 cookie, whatever your students feel most comfortable doing, either a circle or a rectangle. They can take that 1 cookie and realize that they have to partition it in order to fairly share, and they would label it. So this is person number 1, person number 2, person number 3, and each person gets 1/3. So 1/3 piece here, 1/3 here, 1/3 here, and therefore each student gets 1/3. Our last one, very similar to our first, share 7 cookies among 6 people. So we have 7 cookies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hopefully they know that each person gets 1 cookie. But then they are left with this last cookie. And how are we going to equally share this last cookie with our 6 friends? They can then see that we can decompose it into 6/6. Therefore, each student gets a 1/6, gets a 1/6, gets a 1/6, gets a 1/6, and a 1/6, and a 1/6. So therefore the question is, each person gets how much? 1 1/6 cookie.